15 minutes past the hour, now 16 minutes past the hour. The clock just changed on a Wednesday, April 1st. Happy April, happy Holy Week. Many of us face challenges. I think it's just a natural thing. We are just confronted with so much information, so much media on a daily basis. Adults, by the way, consume about 12 hours of media every single day, so that's like half of the hours in the day. And children are about 8 to 10 hours, and even younger children, more and more younger children are gaining access to very unseemly things, that's putting it mildly, on the internet. And this is why this particular product that is making headlines now is so absolutely not just ridiculous, but evil. As if there aren't enough problems out there. You have companies trying to make money off of families and kids. I don't know if you heard about this, but there's this company in Great Britain. So let me just read you this story. And it is going to get your blood pressure up. New kidfluencers. Fury, and the company's name is Argo, sells, and this is from Great Britain, this is from The Sun, a 15-euro influencer kit for toddlers, complete with toy camera, phone, and ring light for career role play. Parents are furious over a new influencer set for toddlers, including a ring light and a smartphone being sold. The completely irresponsible set, as it's being referred to by many concerned parents, is made by Argos' in-house toy brand and features a wooden set for career role play aimed at children as young as 2. I'm not kidding. This is real. The company bosses defended the set, saying it is one of many items that encourage creative play. Oh, yeah, right. We were born, but not yesterday. A poll by YouGov for Great Ormond Street Hospital, of course, this is a Great Britain-based story, a charity from 2024, found almost a fifth of children aged 6 to 17 across the UK said they wanted to be a type of social media influencer. Yeah, that's their goal in life. Now, this is, again, a story out of the UK, United Kingdom, but similar stories, of course, have been breaking in America for decades in terms of social media influence. And there was a study that came out in the U.S. not too long ago showing how many young people in high school, when they were asked what they wanted to be when they grew up, social media influencer was at the top of their list. One mom told a local newspaper in Great Britain, "We shouldn't be teaching our toddlers to make a career out of taking selfies, especially with the use of a ring light. Influencers use these to hide blemishes and make their lives appear more polished and perfect. It is completely irresponsible." The product's About section reads, "This beautifully crafted wooden live streaming set includes 6 essential components: a sturdy tripod stand, adjustable lens, miniature camera, smartphone model tablet, and microphone. All can be neatly stored in a convenient carrying pouch. You can cultivate children's storytelling skills and creativity through career role play." 89% of Great Britain's 12-year-olds now own a smartphone, as do a quarter of children aged 5 to 7, getting their first smartphone on average age 9. Smartphone Free Childhood co-founder and director Daisy Greenwell saying, "Is anyone genuinely thinking this is what 2-year-olds need? We have to ask what we're teaching our children to aspire to." So the story is breaking out of Great Britain, but it is making all kinds of headlines here. And it's super important for us to be aware of this, especially in light of 2 major blockbuster cases that have been making headlines in the U.S. If you remember, we had the story out of Los Angeles just recently. This was last week. A jury in Los Angeles finding Meta YouTube negligent in social media in an addiction trial. A jury in LA determining that Meta and Google were negligent and failed to warn users of the dangers associated with using their platforms in a high-profile social media case. In the first of several trials taking place this year that experts have characterized as the social media industry's big tobacco moment, damages were assessed at $3 million, with Meta on the hook for 70% and YouTube the remaining 30%. All right, now this comes after a case was also won in the state of New Mexico. We had Donna Rice Hughes on about that 2 weeks ago. And then comes this story out of Great Britain of this new influencer set for toddlers. Are you kidding me? Now, obviously, they worked on this toy for a while, and it's coming out at the same time, these big lawsuits here in America are making headlines because both plaintiffs, the New Mexico AG and the young woman who sued because she says she was addicted at an early age, they both won. I want to play for you a clip, and Richard's going to run that for us right now, of the attorney representing, he was part of the law team representing the young woman who sued. Listen to what he says about how important this is. And then think of this in light of what this company in Great Britain is trying to pull off. Richard, roll it, as we say.
Tragically hurt through the addiction of social media. And while we've never been able to talk about the content of what these social media platforms can do, that's protected under the judge's rulings, we have been able to talk about the features. And we've sent a message with this that you will be held accountable for the features. This is the tip of the spear. And you've got to remember, this is what's called a bellwether. It's the first trial. In the history of American jurisprudence, it usually takes the plaintiffs 3 or 4 times to figure out how to win these cases. The plaintiffs are supposed to lose the first 3 or 4. We won. And so that's provocative in what it says to everyone. You know, you had Google's A team here. You had Meta's A team here. They had the best lawyers that their money could buy. And they went after us and went after poor.
Hear those delicious bubbles?
Kaylee and her family like vultures over a carcass. I mean, they were all over everything, and they didn't win. And so we're deeply appreciative, and I do think it bodes well for the other thousands of cases that are out there.
Yeah, this is a huge story, and that's why it's just so amazing that the other side of this will not stop. They don't care. They don't care. And I'm glad they brought up the tobacco situation, the tobacco case, as an example. Because if you remember from the movie with Russell Crowe, which was an excellent movie, and I can't remember the name of it, but he was the whistleblower. And just as with the case involving Meta and all these other social media giants, there were so many in-house memos and emails. They were well aware of what was going on with addiction and kids. And they continued, and they actually were working for that, just like with the tobacco industry, knew the addictive qualities of cigarettes. And they went ahead and they did it because they knew they could hook kids. And if you hook them when they're young, you hook them for a lifetime. And this is why this company, Argos, over across the pond in England, is pushing this product. Because despite all of this, there will be parents, unfortunately, who will buy this for their kids. It's ridiculous, but they will. I'm amazed, given all the information we have about social media, how often parents say they don't even have protective measures on their kids' phones. And how early kids get phones. It's ridiculous. And so I think this is a really, really important story, not just this toy, which is very, very frightening to me, very damaging. What does it tell? And 2-year-olds, are you kidding me? It is getting them hooked early. Getting them to talk about their appearance and getting them hooked on social media, because if they learn how to do this, these selfies and these videos, then they're going to be turning to social media to see how many people are following them, how many likes, what kind of comments they get, and then they're hooked. So this is something I think important to talk about, especially during Holy Week, because we've been discussing during Lent how we need to make sure we are paying attention to our own media habits. And this is not just for young people, not just for babies, innocent babies, and other young people. It's for all of us. We can all get sucked in, and we do get sucked in. And this is why these cases are so important. And this is why it's important to bring these stories out in terms of still what some of these money-hungry companies are doing in terms of trying to hook kids. Something to think about and pray about, and certainly something that we need to be aware of. And we also need to see what the Holy Mother Church teaches about media. Many, many really good teachings and writings on how to handle the media and how to use it wisely. We'll be right back. Minutes past the hour. It is Holy Thursday, Maundy Thursday, as it's often referred to. And we are beginning this evening, of course, the beautiful Paschal Triduum, commemorating, of course, in this Mass this evening, the washing of the feet, the institution of the priesthood, and the Eucharist, a very powerful day indeed, and the Chrism Mass for all the priests taking place around the world. We do have our very own Father Mitch Pacwa with us, of course, but just a little explanation. It's live radio, things happen, and that's why we have professionals working behind the scenes. My wonderful producer, Richard, for whatever reason, weren't able to connect this morning. Who knows? I'm not an expert. I just talk on the microphone. I touch nothing behind the microphone. But we're back. Thanks be to God. All is well. And thank you for listening to this edition of Catholic Connection on a Thursday, April 2nd. Holy Week, the holiest of weeks. Of course, this time we have cultural connections with our very own Father Mitch Pacwa. Father, happy Holy Thursday to you. And I know that we want to start this morning. You have somewhat of a little bit of breaking news as you spoke to some of your dear friends in Jerusalem. What's the latest, Father, from the Mideast regarding the impact of the conflict in Iran? First of all, thanks for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, it seems the Israelis said that the largest barrage of the war yet took place last night. This is the first day of Passover. And last night, as a lot of people are aware, Jewish people start the day at sundown. So yesterday at sundown began the celebration of the Passover supper in the Jewish community. And this is something very difficult for everybody. These are the high holy days of Jewish people, and to have to go to shelters instead of celebrating with your family is painful for them. The Christian community is also suffering considerably. They are not, they're also being bombed. The bombs are not only going to Jewish areas of Israel, they're also hitting Arab areas as well, like East Jerusalem. And so as a result, the Israelis are not allowing any of the Christians to go to Mass, to celebrate any part of the Triduum. They can't, they're not allowed in the city. In fact, I mentioned a few weeks ago that the gates of the old city are shut. And it's not only the Christian holy sites. It's the Dome of the Rock, the Al-Aqsa Mosque. It's also the Jewish religious sites in the old city, like the Western Wall, and the Holy Sepulchre, and all the other Christian churches. Everything is shut down. All the markets are shut down. The stores, everything. And you've been in Jerusalem, you know, especially on a Friday, how busy it is. It's just, with Jews coming in to start their Sabbath in the evening, Muslims celebrating Yom HaJum'ah, their main day of prayer, and the Christians making the way of the cross. It's hectic. Now there's nobody on the streets.
Wow.
You can't get in, and it was only with pressure from the Vatican that they allowed the clergy to at least celebrate the liturgies of Triduum and Holy Week. Now, so folks may not realize, but there are monasteries of Greeks, Armenians, and Catholics who live in the Holy Sepulchre complex or very close to it. The Armenians live a little bit down the street. The Greeks are next door, and the Franciscans have their convent right there. So, they're there. They're not coming in from outside the city, but so they are allowed to offer those liturgies. Now, outside the city, the churches were packed on Palm Sunday. I mean,
Wow.
people were in chairs outside, and they set up big screens so people could see what was happening inside. There were so many people who came to churches. Now, they couldn't go to the parishes inside the old city, but they did go to the parishes outside the old city. There's another development that's going on, too, with the Israeli army now occupying parts of Lebanon. Hezbollah is now going into some of the Christian areas of Beirut. We've seen this kind of cowardice with Hamas, where the military folks are living among civilians. This happened in Gaza with Hamas, that they were staying, and storing weapons in schools, hospitals, mosques, things like that. And now Hezbollah is getting its way into the Christian community. This is a cause of big concern to the Christians who live in Beirut. This was on Lebanese news this morning. Afternoon over there. And so this is a cause of great concern, and the bishops in Lebanon are very, very concerned. So this is another, the makings of another crisis.
Right.
And so this is one of the things that we also have to be, should be alert to.
There's an interesting discussion going on among the Vatican journalists. I had Joan Lewis on, as I always do on Wednesdays yesterday, Father. And by the way, Father Mitch Pacwa joining us on Thursdays for our regular Cultural Connections, giving us an update on the situation in the Holy Land through his contacts there regarding the conflict in Iran. But there seems to be a piece of the story missing as to why Pizzabella could not get in to celebrate Mass on Palm Sunday. They apologized, and then they're saying, okay, now we have these new arrangements, and we'll make sure that you can have access. But I wonder what led to that in the first place, because that has never happened, and there was quite the statement from the Vatican on it when it happened.
Right. And, we'll see that. And so folks understand, his Beatitude, Pizzabella, is the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
There are also Greek and Greek Orthodox and Greek Catholic and Armenian Patriarchs of Jerusalem. So Jerusalem is the see of St. James, because St. James became the Bishop of Jerusalem after the council, after St. Peter had to leave. You remember how St. Peter was forced to leave Jerusalem in 42 A.D. when Herod Agrippa I had arrested him, was going to execute him. And so now we see that this is the see of St. James, because St. James became the patriarch. And all the churches have these patriarchs, and they're important leaders in the Christian community for sure. So this is a very important place. And, this is, the local Christians are complaining. We're not an archaeological artifact. These are living churches. Mm-hmm. And these are Christians have been there for 2,000 years. Right.
The concern is, as you know, Father, though, that it could be that, God forbid, with the ongoing conflict and so many people, suffering there. And that's why we need to keep our eyes and our prayers, of course, looking toward Jerusalem, the holy city. Father, stay tuned. We'll be talking about Holy Thursday, and thank you for that very important update on the impact on the Holy Land from the conflict in Iran. We'll be right back on a Thursday, not just any Thursday, Holy Thursday. Holy Holy Thursday morning, April 2nd. Appreciate your listenership here at EWTN Radio's Catholic Connection. Teresa Tomeo joined, as I always am on Thursdays, by the amazing Father Mitch Pacwa from EWTN Radio and TV, of course, and his many books and his teachings, and his great experience and knowledge on not only all things Catholic, but, of course, so many things going on in the world, especially in the Holy Land, where he has spent so much time and knows so many people. Father, switching gears, because today is such a beautiful, beautiful day on our calendar, liturgical calendar, Holy Thursday, and it is just so wonderful to realize what happened on Holy Thursday in terms of the gift of the priesthood, the Eucharist. So much to say. Is this one of your favorite days?
Well, I love the whole Triduum. There's nothing about it that I dislike. The liturgies are special, and I especially love a lot of the Maronite hymns. The hymns at this season are truly amazing. They're not so great on Christmas carols. They don't, the Middle Easterners don't have as many Christmas carols, but they really have wonderful hymns for Good Friday and for Easter. So this is one of the reasons that I love this season so well. So yeah, this is pretty amazing stuff for me.
I think it was wonderful that the Holy Father dedicated his prayer intention to this month to the priests and supporting priests and praying for the priests, because I don't think a lot of us realize. Sometimes we appreciate our priests, of course, but sometimes we may take for granted the struggles and the challenges and even the crises that they may face at times in their priesthood.
Well, see, this is one of the things, and I've heard a number of priests describe how these have been somewhat extra difficult times, partly because they get all kinds of difficulties from, sometimes even their own bishops. And it's not that the bishops are trying to be mean to them or anything. It's just that, the bishops are also trying to deal with a variety of their own concerns. And they are dealing with, how to reassign guys. Of course, we still don't have enough clergy.
Right.
That's an ongoing problem. And for those who think, well, if we just had women ordained or married priests, it'd be solved. No, the churches that have, ordination of women, I'm thinking of some of the Protestant churches, and they have married clergy and all that, they still don't have enough clergy, except for a couple denominations that just don't have any people.
And also, Father, if that were a main attraction and a main reason, to join a particular church, some of those churches who do offer that, for example, the Anglican churches, they would be flocking to those churches, and many of those churches are struggling. And meanwhile, in the Catholic Church, you probably saw the beautiful article in the Register yesterday, and the New York Times and News Nation and other secular outlets also even mentioned our research at the Register. People are coming into the Catholic Church in droves. Breaking records.
I know. I was at Auburn University down in South Alabama, and I think they have 120 some people entering the church this year.
Wow.
Among the college kids.
We have 1,400 in the Archdiocese of Detroit, over 1,400.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
so,
it's record-breaking.
Yeah, this is truly remarkable, and wonderful. But it also means that there's a lot more to do.
Right, a lot more work. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we need more clergy. I think there are a number of reasons, for things going the way they do. We have to take care of a wide variety of issues. This is what we'll do. But until that is done, we pray for the priests, especially today, ourselves much more prayerful. This is part of our task. We have a great mission. This is going to be my 50th year as a priest.
I know.
And
Congratulations.
it's a good start.
Well, I know a little birdie who's doing some shopping for you overseas, but I'm not going to release her name, and we'll talk about that another time. But that's amazing. But Father, what else can we do for our priests? Obviously, pray for them, but what can we do at the parish level for our priests? Do you think?
There's a certain amount of, like any of you who are parents and know that when kids get whiny and complaining, they're no longer any fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of true for clergy as well. Your parish priest. I'm not a parish priest. Most of my work is here. But I would urge people to be, extra sensitive to, you don't like it when your kids are whiny. It doesn't make it easy to parent. Well, that's true for clergy, too, that they really are fathers of the parish. And you need to let them be fathers. And that's not saying, well, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
No. But, again, that's where people get whiny again. We don't, no whining. Mrs. Pacwa said, or I'll give you something to whine about.
Or as my mother used to say, don't cry, God's going to give you something to cry about. That's what my mother used to say, Rosie.
Didn't wait.
Yeah.
She thought she would just dive in there and do that herself.
Oh, my goodness. But I think the appreciation, I mean, being a deacon's wife, I know it means a lot to Deacon Dom when someone will, make a reference and comment on a homily and share, a nice thought or leave a little thank you card around the holidays. It's always greatly appreciated, just to show the clergy, at your parish that you appreciate them, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and, like everybody, Lord have mercy, it's difficult enough. We all have a variety of things to try to take care of, and this is what we do. And the priests, really, these are good guys.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just that because I'm one of them. It's a good guy,
right?
And they're really doing what they can to be the best they can.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just part of what they do.
We know you are. You work so hard. 50 years, Father. What does that feel like?
50 years. Well, yeah.
Wow.
No, 50 years is not that long. I'm sure you heard your grandfathers say it's not. Where does the time go?
Where does the time go? Time flies, right?
Yeah.
Father, happy Easter. Buona Pasqua. Have a beautiful day today. Thank you for your gift to the church and giving your life to the church, to Christ, and being in persona Christi for so many of us, especially the Sacrament of Reconciliation and the Eucharist. Father Mitch Pacwa on Holy Thursday. We'll be right back. 38 minutes past the hour on a Thursday, but as we mentioned, not just any Thursday here at EWTN. It is Holy Thursday. And we begin the Triduum, Paschal Triduum, of course, later on. And we have the Chrism Mass for the priests and the bishops around the world. And then we also have Holy Thursday Mass this evening, the institution of the Eucharist and the priesthood, the washing of the feet, a beautiful, beautiful time, and the most important time on our Catholic calendar. We have a little surprise for you, though, this morning. We thought, my wonderful producers, Deb and Richard, thought that it would be great, because we are in this holiest of weeks, to share a very special interview that took place on the Good News Cruise, which, of course, happened in early February. We were blessed to have Jonathan Roumie, of course, who plays Jesus in the extremely popular series The Chosen. And he joined us as one of our speakers, and he was just absolutely delightful. And he was interviewed by our wonderful MC and host, Father Joe Krupp, who's from the Diocese of Lansing. You should check out his online podcast, his ministry, Joe Black Ministries. It's really wonderful. And he is not only a great MC, but he's quite the comedian. He actually did comedy writing before he discerned the priesthood. Anyway, what I was really moved by in terms of Jonathan Roumie's presence is that he spent so much time with the people. That was the weekend that the movie O Sole Mio came out, that he was joining us in early February. And he said to Father Joe, I really can't stay, I've got a lot to do. But he ended up staying because he enjoyed it so much and showed up all over the ship and all different types of activities. And again, he was just delightful. So he did sit down with Father Joe for an extensive interview. We're going to play 2 parts of that interview today, and then we'll come back for some more when we're in the Easter season, which I think is appropriate because he plays Jesus, obviously. And in this first segment that Richard, my stellar producer, pulled for us, he talks about his faith. This isn't just a Hollywood thing and a professional thing for him. This is super, super important in terms of what he deems important in his life regarding acting and the responsibility he has in playing the Lord. Take a listen.
Do you see like a future for you in films where you're in a secular film industry and bringing this light with you? Is that what you see as your role now? And if so, can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think once The Chosen came into my life, that really became the centerpiece to my mission as an actor, is to be able to tell stories that amplify light and bring light into the culture and bring goodness into the culture. And with The Chosen, specifically bring Jesus into the culture. And there's other ways and other stories whereby people can bring Jesus into the culture, but maybe not so literally, And for instance, with this military show, like there's a subset of our audience. Most of our audience is predominantly female. Industry-wide, one of the most elusive audiences is the male, like 25 to 55 audience. Like they're really hard to pin down for stuff that, especially when it's like, Bible related or faith based. They just don't show up for those kinds of stories. So you got to figure out another way to minister to them through art. That's what I feel like. That's how I feel. So I think with this show, with the military show, I think it's going to be a way for me to still kind of do what I do, which is kind of bring God into the culture through a character and minister to people, but it'll be in a way that they didn't anticipate, because it's going to be grounded in reality and relationships. And I mean, couples will, I think, really gravitate towards these stories because there's so many people, spouses, married to military spouses that, especially when they've gone, when one of them's gone off to battle and fought, and they come back and they have PTSD, and there's all these dynamics that affect the relationship between the husband and wife and with the kids. And so a lot of that's never really been explored in a way that invokes God in the picture, and what does that look like, and what is a person's trajectory, let's say, if they start off without God in their life, or maybe lapsed, no longer in their life because of some of the things they've seen, and they've questioned God, like how could God allow the things that I've seen while I was, in the military? And then they come back, and it's like, what happens when you have a guy that's kind of, dispensed with his faith, go through this story where, how does he get back to faith? How does somebody get back to faith? And those stories to me are fascinating, because that's most of us, myself included. My own story. Like, I was baptized, made my first communion and confirmation and all that stuff when I grew up as a Catholic, and when I moved to LA to pursue acting full time, I really relied on my faith, but it wasn't until I was brought to the precipice of myself where I really, and I had a complete surrender to God, which many folks here know that story. I've told that before, and it wasn't until I was at the end of myself that I was able to take that next step with Christ in my life, especially as it related to how I handled my career. My career was everything in my life at that time. And I hadn't allowed God into that part of my life in a way, because I think I just never, you don't think of it as an actor, going and living in Los Angeles or even in New York, God doesn't really enter the vocabulary of maybe most vocations, I guess, that are not priestly vocations, or but he certainly wasn't a part of the vernacular and part of the journey as an actor trying to find success. It was like, what agent do I need to get? How many casting directors do I need to meet? Who do I get these auditions to? Do I need a manager? Like, how do I get people to help me get through these doors so that I can show my talent and then I can be cast and I can get in a movie like everybody else but not God? And it was just like, once I actually did that, that's when my career actually began. And then I thought to myself, how did I not have him a part of my career from the beginning?
Jonathan Roumie talking about the struggles and the importance of making sure that he's focused on Jesus and the right message regarding the types of performances in which he's involved, whether it be The Chosen, or he mentioned a military project that he's working on, a different type of a project showing the lives of different people in the military. He also talked about, of course, this whole situation in terms of what's happening with this beautiful film called Solo Mio. And this relates to exactly what he said in the previous segment, because Solo Mio is a lovely film. It's a rom-com, a romantic comedy that came out in early February, as we mentioned, but it's so well done, and there's such great character development. And it's absolutely lovely, and something you can take your teenagers to, because I think they might be interested, especially if they're girls, in a rom-com. But it's a lovely film about real life, and it takes people to, of course, the beautiful country of Italy. Here he's talking about his role in this beautiful film, Solo Mio, which came out earlier this year.
Yeah, so Solo Mio is the story of a guy named Matt Taylor, who's an art teacher, elementary school art teacher, who goes to Rome to get married. And when he gets to Rome, his fiancée doesn't show up, leaves him at the altar. And so his honeymoon's already paid for, non-refundable. And so he gets convinced to go on his own honeymoon, treat it as a vacation, call it whatever he wants. He's paid for it. He can't get the money back, and so he does. And so along the way, he's on this doing all these different excursions that couples are supposed to do, that he's doing by himself. Tandem bikes. I won't tell you all of them. For instance, Kevin James on a tandem bike by himself. That's all I have to say. Go see the movie. And then I'm one of the other two couples that sort of adopt him and realize something's going on with that guy because he's the only guy by himself. And they sort of take it upon themselves to ingratiate them into their quirky little circle. And then I'm sort of the angel versus Kim Coates, who plays the other guy, the devil on the shoulder, to try to convince him to either figure out what went wrong. I'm trying to help him. I play a therapist. I'm trying to help him heal and figure out what went wrong. And the other guy's like, you get rid of her. She's gone. Let's, you got to start. I'll be your wingman. I'm like, no. So it's actually for the family. Families love it. My teenage nieces saw it. They thought it was hysterical. It's PG. It's clean. It's wholesome. It's the kind of movie. Thank you. Yeah. There you go. It's the kind of movie that they don't put in theaters and they haven't made in 30 years. So it's really, it's why people go to the movies. It'll make you remember why you went to the movies, when movies were great and clean and family friendly and just really good entertainment. You'll laugh, you'll cry, there's a couple of twists, you'll gasp, hopefully. People are really loving it. So thank you for letting me talk about it.
Oh yeah, we're all the people who haven't seen it. We're obviously excited to see it. I wonder what is when you look at what you did on The Chosen. These are two totally different experiences, I would assume, as an actor.
Yeah.
Can you tell some of the differences?
Well, I get to wear actual shoes in this one.
Nice.
Environmentally, there's running water. There are cars in this one. So what's not to love about that?
Yeah.
21st century living, baby. Yeah.
You don't get crucified in this one, do you?
Well, no.
Yeah, okay. Well, just don't give anything away.
Not by first century terms we're talking, but no, I don't. It's for me, it was a really beautiful breath of fresh air to play a character that doesn't feel like he has the weight of the world on his shoulders. And to get to laugh and to get to improvise, and Kevin and the directors, the Canaan brothers, these 8 Catholic brothers that are this film collective named the Canaan Brothers. You should check them out. This is only their second feature film, and it's stunning. And they all work together. 2 of them directed the movie, 2 of them wrote the movie with Kevin James. One's the music supervisor. I think 1 or 2 of them edit. Like it's crazy. And yeah, they're from Rhode Island. They're amazing family, and they basically gave me so much freedom to kind of bring my funny bone to the character, and to lean into the character and to help create this kind of a character. And although it's not like a faith-based film, it's grounded in family values. And me, no matter what character that I'm playing, I love to have the opportunity to bring who I am, the fullness of who God made me to be, as a Christian, as a lover of God and Jesus. I want to bring that to every role that I play, no matter what the story is. And the stories going forward, they may not all be, happy-go-lucky, or like, hey, I'm playing like a biblical character. Like, they may be challenging stories, because being human is challenging, I think, as we all know. And we all suffer, and we all struggle, and we all have trials. And I think the best films reflect humanity within them, and what the human struggle is to go through that as a character. So I may play guys that are fraught and broken and need help, and maybe find redemption through their character arc. And so how can I bring my faith to the role, even if it's somebody that is not ostensibly, going to church in the story, if that makes sense? And so one of the ways I got to do that for Solo Mio, I thought a lot about this. I'm like, well, how can I bring a visible depiction of my Christianity to this role? And I thought about it, and it occurred to me, I wear a cross. I wear a few different things, but I wear a cross, miraculous medal. And I thought, thank you, Jesus. Yeah. Thank you, Mother Mary. Sure. Yeah. Give Jesus and his mother a round of applause. Come on. That includes you, Holy Spirit. You're in there too.
Jonathan Roumie being interviewed by Father Joe Krupp from the Diocese of Lansing on Good News Cruise 2026. Check out Good News Cruise 2027 and goodnewscruise.com. We'll be right back. So just to remind you, we are off tomorrow, obviously, for Good Friday, joining you Easter Monday live again. Thanks be to God. Wishing you a beautiful Easter weekend. And, of course, Triduum, Holy Triduum, Paschal Triduum. Coming up in the second hour of 2 Cents, or second hour of Catholic Connection, we have our 2 Cents segment. We're going to share the beautiful message. Speaking of priests, as Father Mitch did so beautifully earlier, we're going to share with you the message from the Holy Father for his April prayer intentions, all about the priesthood. And then Michael O'Neill, the miracle hunter here on EWTN, is going to be joining us to talk about the beatification of Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen. Now, we will have a full newscast for you and a weathercast as well. We'll give you the information that we always start you off with every day. We did have, as we mentioned, as we say in the broadcasting business, some technical difficulties, so we were standing by while things got straightened out. But of course, we still have a show for you, because that's what you do. The show must go on, as the old saying goes. So again, coming up in the second hour on Holy Thursday, we have our 2 Cents segment featuring a beautiful message from the Holy Father for the April prayer intentions, all about priests, and reminding us to take care of our priests, to show our appreciation for them, and to thank them, of course, for what they do and for giving their lives for the church. And then Michael O'Neill talking about the beatification of Archbishop Fulton Sheen. He'll bring us up to date on the developments. Very, very exciting. So again, lots to talk about. And next week we have a dynamic lineup for you. And as I mentioned, the interview with Jonathan Roumie was done live before the Good News Cruise audience, 2,000 people. Phenomenal. Thanks to Father Joe Krupp, and also to Jonathan Roumie for spending so much time with the passengers on the Good News Cruise. GoodNewsCruise.com for more information. Hour number 2 coming up of Catholic Connection. We'll be right back.
Welcome to Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo, keeping you connected to your faith and your world. Teresa tackles the issues of faith and culture, the pro-life message, and media awareness. And now, here's Teresa Tomeo.
Happy Holy Thursday, happy Holy Week, and wishing you a beautiful Triduum and Easter Sunday as well. Make sure you stay tuned to all the great programming at EWTN. We'll be carrying so many important events live, of course, from Rome, including the Colosseum, the Mass, Easter Vigil Mass, oh my gosh, and so much more, of course, Easter Sunday as well, and the Pope's message to the city and the world on Sunday morning, on Easter Sunday morning. Coming up on the second hour of Catholic Connection here on Holy Thursday, we are going to be listening, speaking of the Holy Father, to his beautiful prayer intentions for the month of April, all about the priesthood and supporting priests and praying for priests and reaching out to priests who may be in crisis. And I play that because I think it's very important for us to remember, as Father Mitch indicated in the first part of the program, that they really are our fathers, right? They're our pastors, our shepherds at our local parishes. And as Father also said, it doesn't mean that they can do whatever they want or you can't talk to them about a concern. But how many times do we say thank you? I gave my pastor a big hug yesterday, went to confession, and I just said, thank you for all you do. I know this is a crazy busy week for you. This is your marathon or your Super Bowl, as my friend Tom Price was saying the other day. And just thanking him for everything he does as our pastor and spiritual leader. So it's something to think and pray about as we start this beautiful, beautiful Triduum. And we will talk more about that in 2 cents. Also, coming up, this is very exciting. The Miracle Hunter, well, it's always exciting with Michael O'Neill, but he's going to be talking to us about the beatification of the one, the only Archbishop Fulton Sheen. We'll have 2 segments with Michael to talk about that, bringing us up to date on all the exciting details. Let's take a look at the weather and what they're saying for the next couple of days. The National Weather Service is claiming there's going to be back-to-back storms for mostly the center of the country. Storm systems bringing late seasonal snow, sleet, and ice for portions of the northern plains, upper Midwest, and Great Lakes. Meanwhile, where temperatures are warmer, severe thunderstorms are expected for areas of the Mississippi Valley into the southern plains, and there's a combination of windy and dry conditions, and fire weather concerns are being raised for the southern high plains. So keep that in mind if you're traveling anywhere for the beautiful Easter weekend. We appreciate your listenership both in the first hour of Catholic Connection and here on Radio Extra. Right now it's time for the news on Holy Thursday here on EWTN. Devin Watkins from Rome talks to us about the Chrism Mass held in St. Peter's Basilica last night. Pope Leo inviting priests, bishops, and all Christians to embrace their challenges with trust in the Lord and spread the fragrance of Christ where the stench of death reigns.
At his first Chrism Mass as Bishop of Rome, Pope Leo XIV reflected on the mission to which God calls every Christian, which he said is the very same mission as that of Jesus. Pope Leo said the culmination of the Christian liturgical year has the power to transform human pride, heal wounds, reconcile us, and gather us together. He reflected on 3 aspects of the Christian mission: detachment, encounter, and the possibility of misunderstanding and rejection. As members of Christ's body, he said, Christians and especially ordained ministers are sent out in service of his people, which requires us to leave behind attachments that are familiar so that we can venture into something new.
Non c'è pace senza partenze.
There is no peace without setting out, he said, no awareness without detachment, no joy without risk. Pope Leo XIV then spoke about the law of encounter, which he said has often been distorted historically by a desire for domination. Many great missionaries have borne witness, he said, to quiet, unobtrusive approaches whose method is the sharing of life and selfless service. Christians are guests wherever they are, added the Pope, noting that in places where secularization has taken hold, we must learn new ways to communicate the gospel of Jesus effectively. Pope Leo then turned to the possibility of being misunderstood or rejected, which he said is the most radical element of the Christian mission. Even when we experience failure or our own shortcomings, we must learn to trust that God's grace will help us to face unforeseen circumstances, as the saints have before us.
Also on Holy Thursday, the Holy Father is set to wash the feet of 12 priests. The liturgy will begin at 5:30 p.m. Rome time at the Basilica of St. John Lateran. 11 of the priests were ordained last year by the Pope. And at the end of the liturgy, of course, the Holy Father will carry the Blessed Sacrament to the place of repose in the chapel of St. Francis. In other news this morning on a Thursday, President Trump last night in an address to the nation saying the U.S. will not allow Iran to get a nuclear weapon. And again, he addressed the nation last evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Time.
From the very first day I announced my campaign for president in 2015, I have vowed that I would never allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon.
This a day after Trump said he thought the war could end in 2 to 3 weeks. The president saying Iran has been decimated and can no longer threaten our country with the promise of a nuclear weapon. Archbishop Paul S. Coakley of Oklahoma City, president of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, did publish a statement earlier in the day welcoming indications the war may soon end and calling for a ceasefire. He said the longer the conflict with Iran continues, as EWTN News explained, including the risk of deploying ground troops to the region, the greater the risk of a dramatic escalation, risking an ever greater regional conflict. Citing the Holy Father's Palm Sunday homily on March 29th with the Pope proclaiming Christ the King of Peace who rejects war, Coakley encouraged Christians renewed by Easter to live out their vocation as peacemakers. The Pope separately addressing the conflict earlier this week, telling reporters outside the papal villa of Castel Gandolfo Easter should be the holiest, most sacred time of the year. And he added, I'm told that the president recently stated he would like to end the war. Hopefully he's looking for an off-ramp, and hopefully he's looking for a way to decrease the amount of violence, of bombing, which would be a significant contribution to removing the hatred that's being created and that's increasing constantly in the Middle East and elsewhere. Meanwhile, President also addressed concerns last night over higher gas prices.
Many Americans have been concerned to see the recent rise in gasoline prices here at home. This short-term increase has been entirely the result of the Iranian regime launching deranged terror attacks against commercial oil tankers in neighboring countries that have nothing to do with the conflict.
His primetime address last night, where he went on to say that gas prices will rapidly come back down while stock prices will rapidly go back up. Trump also said that once the conflict ends, the Strait of Hormuz will open naturally. Speaking to other nations dealing with fuel shortages, he advised them to either buy oil from the U.S. or go to the Strait and take it themselves. And the Supreme Court has heard arguments over the hot-button issue of birthright citizenship. Yesterday's hearing featured quite a bit of back and forth about the Constitution and also an appearance by the president, who was in the gallery. Trump became the first sitting president to actually attend oral arguments in the Supreme Court. That case was a challenge to the president's executive order that ended birthright citizenship for children born to parents in the U.S. illegally or temporarily. Opponents arguing that goes against the Constitution's 14th Amendment, granting automatic citizenship to children born in the U.S. The justices are expected to issue a decision by late June or early July.
3, 2, 1, booster ignition, and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Wow, I don't know if you had a chance to watch that live, but Deacon Dom and I did. It was amazing. NASA successfully launching its Artemis II mission yesterday on a historic trip around the moon. Crowds flocking to Florida's Space Coast to watch the massive spacecraft blast off from the Kennedy Space Center with 4 astronauts on board. This is the first crewed mission to the moon since 1972. The 10-day test flight will conclude with a splashdown off the coast of San Diego, California. And Rory O'Neill tells us a new NASA administrator, meanwhile, is feeling a different kind of pressure following the successful launch of Artemis II yesterday.
It's a role reversal for the new NASA administrator, Jared Isaacman. He's been the astronaut on 2 SpaceX flights. Now, Artemis II is his baby.
It is far less stressful to be strapped into the rocket than to be responsible for it here on Earth. So I definitely had those feelings quite a bit.
Isaacman is shaking up some NASA programs, adding an extra test flight for Artemis, but still promising to land on the moon by 2028, then committing to a 7-year, $20 billion plan for a new lunar base. Rory O'Neill at the Kennedy Space Center.
Ted Bundy, the notorious serial killer, is being now linked to another murder. He was executed back in 1989 for the murder of a 12-year-old girl and is believed to have killed dozens of women during the 70s. On Wednesday, officials in Utah said they were closing a decades-old case after finding what they called definitive proof that Bundy killed a 17-year-old Utah girl. That girl went missing in October of 1974 after leaving a party, and her body was found on Thanksgiving Day in a canyon south of Salt Lake City. Officials have now determined that DNA pulled from the teen's body did belong to Bundy. Bree Tennis tells us yesterday a notice made the rounds claiming that TSA was going to require a major change to carry-on luggage.
The article was posted by a travel website and said this summer TSA would require clear, see-through carry-on bags at certain U.S. airports to reduce manual checks by up to 40%. They even posted photos of a clear, hard-sided carry-on suitcase with all contents visible. No need to worry. The post was an April Fool's joke by a travel website called Upgraded Points. I'm Bree Tennis.
Employment in the private sector is growing. The payroll management company ADP saying more than 60,000 jobs were added in March, with its chief economist noting job growth continues to favor certain industries, including healthcare. In other employment-related news, the Labor Department will release its weekly report on unemployment filings today, with the always closely watched monthly jobs report due tomorrow. And Tammy Trujillo tells us April is Autism Acceptance Month, formerly known as Autism Awareness Month.
According to the Autism Society, the goal of the month is to celebrate and honor the experiences and identities of autistic individuals. The nonprofit says that's best done by focusing on understanding, inclusion, and supporting the moves beyond awareness toward meaningful acceptance. The most recent statistics from the CDC show roughly 1 out of every 31 children is being diagnosed with autism before their 8th birthday. A decade ago, reports from the CDC showed a rate of 1 in 54 8-year-olds diagnosed with the disorder. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
New studies showing a link between older women's heart health and bone health. It shows women with an intermediate and high cardiovascular risk also had a similar risk level for experiencing a major fracture. The researchers are saying that the link may be partially due to a reduction in estrogen, which happens after menopause, and that they can say impact both heart and bone health. The study by Tulane University was published in the Lancet Regional Health Journal, involving 21,000 women age 64 on average. And dozens of police canines set to go to work in Pittsburgh to help ensure safety during the upcoming NFL draft. The city council there agreeing to partner with 18 outside law enforcement agencies during the event this month, providing around 70 trained dog teams. Finally, in our news segment at 12 minutes past the hour, Mark Mayfield tells us a record amount of money is being spent on Easter this year.
The National Retail Federation says Americans are expected to spend $24.9 billion on Easter this year. The bulk of the spending will be on candy and food, followed by gifts, decorations, clothing, flowers, and cards. That amounts to nearly $200 per person. I'm Mark Mayfield.
It is a Thursday, but of course not just any Thursday. It's Holy Thursday. We are in the holiest of weeks, wishing you a beautiful Easter. And also, of course, as we begin the Triduum later on today, Holy Thursday, such an important day. Earlier this week, the Holy Father put out his beautiful, beautiful message for April, his prayer intentions. He does that every month. And there's a great place you can go to on Vatican News. We also have links in the EWTN news reports on the Pope's prayer intentions. But I'll ask you a question. When was the last time you said thank you to the clergy at your parish? Holy Father addresses that in his message. We'll play it for you up next. Stay tuned. Hope we're having a wonderful day. It's a Thursday, Holy Thursday. We've got a great lineup for you this hour, in addition to the message from the Holy Father, which is always special. We are going to talk about someone else very special and very important in the life of the church here in America, Archbishop Fulton J. Sheen. Beatification. Michael O'Neill, of course, you know him for his great work with the Miracle Hunter. He travels all over the world seeking different stories about the saints and different miracles. And, of course, we hear him and see him on EWTN on a regular basis every week. And he's joining us to talk about the latest with the beatification of Archbishop Fulton Sheen, one of the greatest communicators I think, not only in the 20th century, but for the church in the last several centuries. Such a great witness, powerful speaker, and really had a command of the airwaves. And we still play his segments, as you know, here on EWTN. So that's coming up after our 2 cents segment, which is right now. Now, every month, as you know, the Holy Father gives prayer intentions. And thanks be to God because of media, which is being used very wisely in this case. There is a website you can go to. You could even just go to the Vatican website, vaticannews.va, and you will see the YouTube channel for the Vatican, and the Holy Father gives his prayer intention. So this month, which I think is very appropriate, obviously, because obviously it's a month of Easter, the holiest time on the liturgical calendar for we Catholics, and he's talking about priests, but it was a very unique message, and it really struck me, of course. This is very close to home for me, being married to a religious. My husband has been a deacon now, coming up this October, 14 years. Wow, that went by fast. And it's very beautiful and very interesting to watch the reaction of parishioners. And we get a lot of great feedback, which I'm so, so grateful for, where people compliment my husband on his homilies. They leave little thank you cards in the mailbox at the parish office. And those little things go such a long way. But the difference, of course, between deacons and priests is most deacons in the United States, in terms of the statistics, are married and have families. Now, priests obviously have families too. They are married, though, in the way of being married to the church. The church is their bride. And they are our father. They have spiritual children. And I wonder, being that many of the priests today are doing an awful lot, many of the priests are not just serving in the priestly capacity with the sacraments, but they are holding some sort of a title, whether it's pastor or associate pastor. And they are extremely busy. And even if they have family in the area, sometimes they can feel very, very alone, and they can struggle a great deal with that loneliness. I remember talking to Father John Ricardo many years ago when he first decided to start Acts 29. This beautiful ministry of his. And he does so many things with it, but he has a particular outreach to bishops and priests. And he goes around the country and is brought in by bishops to meet with priests, to encourage them, to help them with whatever crisis they may be going through. And sometimes I think we need to remember that. And even it's just a little thing. I don't know, maybe you're going to give your priest a little gift, an Easter gift. Maybe you're making him some homemade bread or a cake. Or yesterday when I went for my spiritual direction and confession, I walked in with a huge bag of my homemade Italian chicken soup, which he just loves. And that's the other thing. Remember the day, if you're old enough to remember, when priests actually had maybe someone who would come in and help with the cooking and whatnot? That's not the case anymore. The whole situation has changed. So don't think that these priests are always taken care of in terms of food and supplies and things. They're so busy. I remember one time years ago, which started me cooking for my pastor and spiritual director, he was telling me he was running home to grab a bowl of cereal before he had to go on to the next assignment. And I said, what do you mean a bowl of cereal? That's your dinner? He said, yes. I said, okay, basta with that. I'm an Italian and I couldn't stand it. So I started to make him the chicken soup, which he just loves. And I walked in yesterday to the parish center. You should have seen his face light up. Like my husband asked me, so did Monsignor, like the soup? He lit up like a little boy. He was so excited. He loves my chicken soup. I also give some other things too. I'm not saying that you have to cook on a regular basis, but do something kind for your priest. Again, I don't know, maybe give him a gift card to a local restaurant. That is even great for them for takeout. Just little things to show their appreciation, and ask them if they're doing okay. Maybe take them out to dinner. Let's listen to what the Holy Father says on this Holy Thursday, which is so important to the institution of the Eucharist, obviously because of Holy Thursday Mass. Talking about priests and praying for our priests, his prayer intentions for the month of April. Take a listen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord Jesus, Good Shepherd, companion on the journey, today we place in your hands all priests, especially those going through moments of crisis, when loneliness weighs heavily, when doubt clouds their hearts, and when exhaustion seems stronger than hope. You who know their struggles and wounds, renew in them the certainty of your unconditional love. Let them feel that they are not mere functionaries or lonely heroes, but beloved sons, humble and cherished disciples, and pastors sustained by the prayer of their people. Good Father, teach us as a community to care for our priests, to listen without judging, to give thanks without demanding perfection, to share with them the baptismal mission of proclaiming the kingdom in word and deed, and to accompany them with closeness and sincere prayer. May we support those who so often support us. Holy Spirit, rekindle in our priests the joy of the gospel. Grant them healthy friendships, networks of fraternal support, a sense of humor when things don't go as expected, and the grace to always rediscover the beauty of their vocation. May they never lose trust in you, nor the joy of serving your church with a humble and generous heart. Amen.
Beautiful message from the Holy Father. That is his prayer intentions for the month of April, and you can find more about that both at our news site at ewtnnews.com and, of course, vaticannews.v. I just thought it was a very beautiful message and perfect for Holy Thursday, being that, of course, Holy Thursday Mass, we learn about the institution of the Eucharist, the washing of the feet, of course, and then it is just a beautiful, beautiful time to think about the priesthood. Think about the Eucharist, because a priest, we can't have the Eucharist without priests, right? The consecration. So I think it's an important message. Pray about it. And as you head to Holy Thursday Mass this evening, your Good Friday services tomorrow, maybe you're attending the Easter Vigil or Easter Sunday Mass or the, let's say, Sunrise Mass, if your church has this parish has a Sunrise Mass, maybe just think about how you can pray for your pastor or your parish priest or your deacons, and maybe even ask them, hey, wishing you a happy Easter. How can I pray for you this Easter season? How can I help you? That, I think, is a really important question, which maybe some of us don't want to ask because we're afraid of what the answer might be. Is there something you can do to help ease the burden at the parish level? Ask, support, pray. Doesn't come from me. It comes from the Vicar of Christ. I'm just passing along the message, which is a beautiful one, especially for Holy Thursday. We'll be right back. Hope you're having a beautiful Thursday, Holy Thursday, and what a great day to talk about something that we've been praying for a very long time, the beatification of Archbishop Fulton Sheen. And of course, miracles are involved every step of the way toward canonization. And how about the miracle expert, the miracle hunter, our very own Michael O'Neill, that we see on the weekends here and other times at EWTN, and his great work in tracing those miracles around the world. Michael, happy Holy Week and happy Holy Thursday to you.
Same to you. But this is an exciting thing coming right up in September, isn't it? This beatification.
It is. So first of all, take us back. Well, first of all, let's start. Where is the whole process right now in terms of the beatification?
Well, there was a very long pause, as we know. In 2019, they had declared that miracle formally, and that's all that's really needed to move towards a beatification after the life of heroic virtue has been established by Rome and when somebody's been declared venerable. Finding that miracle through the singular intercession of that would-be saint is the actual tipping point to getting somebody to be beatified. Except in this case, of course, he was ready to be beatified in 2019, and then there was this long pause, a change in a local bishop, and then 7 years later now, they've officially, working with Rome, they've announced out of Peoria this new beatification date of September 24th. So it's been a long time coming, a lot of prayers out there for this, but finally, Fulton Sheen isn't the only person in the whole world with a certified miracle who's not a blessed, so they're going to be rectifying that in September.
What do we know about the miracle?
Yeah, this is an amazing story, and I've had the honor of talking to Bonnie Engstrom, who is the mother of James, now Fulton Engstrom, and this is 2010, I believe, in Illinois, my home state, where we had a home birth that went awry, such that the child was born without a heartbeat, a detectable heartbeat. For 61 minutes, they weren't able to detect a heartbeat or breath or anything, and so that's. Some people say this is the all-time record for anybody who's been in this condition.
Wow!
But they rushed him to the hospital, and of course, everybody prayed that he would live. But the assumption would be is that if you haven't had a heartbeat for 61 minutes and haven't been breathing, you'd have severe brain damage and other problems. And during this time, they prayed, and at home as well, they had a great devotion to Fulton Sheen. And they invoked him for his help in this extreme case. And the boy, we might want to say, came back to life in some ways. And at least in Rome, that's how they view this thing. They say he came back to life. His heartbeat came back. His breath came back. And now, all these years later, this was 2010, and now it's 2026. So this is a boy in perfect health who's lived a normal life beyond that those initial moments. And so his name is James Fulton Engstrom. So that's a very clear case of both a devotion of the family as they prayed for him and afterwards having put that name on him. So it's a truly remarkable story.
All right, so the beatification is actually officially coming up on the calendar later this year. So explain to folks who may not be familiar with what happens during the actual beatification, that process.
So in the beatification mass itself, in some years past, perhaps John Paul II would have these beatification masses in Rome, and maybe he might even travel to somewhere like Mexico City for such an event. But in times past John Paul II, popes have suggested that it's done on the local level. So this one was initially scheduled for Peoria. That was sort of the home base of Fulton Sheen, and now it's in St. Louis. And Cardinal Tagle will be the representative of Pope Leo, traveling there in September on the 24th in this giant mass held at one of the largest stadiums in St. Louis. And for the case of Solanus Casey, for example, they had as many as 70,000 people at Ford Field.
Mm-hmm.
So
in my
they're
area.
expecting big numbers, especially with Fulton Sheen being so well known, and sort of this pent-up excitement over the course of 7 years. Everybody's been waiting for this. So I think it's going to be, it'll be possible to get tickets, but it'll be completely packed, in my guess.
You know, as broadcasters, you and I were talking during the break about his ability, his communications ability, which still to this day resonates with so many people. Of course, we have many of his messages that we play both on television and radio and are available if people follow us online at EWTN.com. It is amazing to me the gift that he had as a speaker.
Absolutely. And I feel, and I'm sure you do in some way, a debt of gratitude to Fulton Sheen for sort of trailblazing in the world of Catholic media with his books and his radio show, The Catholic Hour, and his television program, Life is Worth Living, which won the Emmy Award, I think, in 1953. So amazing that he was able to do this. But you point to something that his mind was incredible. He would often practice in multiple languages and had no notes, and just would extemporaneously deliver these incredibly deep homilies and messages. So I think that
very dramatic though in his presentations, right?
Yes,
very
exactly
dramatic.
right. And perhaps that is what led to him just being not just a bishop, but this incredible glowing personality that so many people around the world were attracted to.
Yes, and I'm wondering if the great communicators in the church we have today, the Father Michael Schmitzes, the John Ricardos, the Bishop Barron, all of those wonderful communicators who are clergy, if they, I haven't asked them that, but that'd be a neat question to ask them, how many Bishop Fulton Sheen videos did they watch on YouTube, right?
That's right. Yeah, no, he's a unique person, and and of course with sainthood, it's not about who had the best TV show or who built the best church or any of these outward signs of contributions to our Catholic faith, but it's a life of virtue that they really look at, and his charity in the way that he approached these things is really what's being recognized in this beatification.
Talking to our very own Michael O'Neill, our miracle hunter, and he has, of course, wonderful programs at EWTN every week. What are you working on? We'll get back to Bishop Fulton Sheen in a second, but I always like to give you a shameless plug as a fellow author and presenter.
Well, I appreciate that. Always a full plate over here, but I think that the big thing that I'm excited about is two programs coming out. One is Miracles of Mercy, which I highlight. This is for television. I highlight 3 incredible Divine Mercy miracles. And also, I'm doing a special on stigmata, given the connection to St. Francis in this 800-year anniversary. So I don't think EWTN has done an in-depth look at this, so I kind of aligned as many top experts on the stigmata as I could find. And I think everybody's ears kind of perk up to that. It's strange and interesting. And so that'll be a great 1-hour special coming out on EWTN.
Oh, I can't wait. When is that coming up?
We're hoping for this summer, but obviously everything needs to get finished and scheduled. So, but very excited about that. And then my Explore show, which airs on Saturdays, is I think we filmed at 80 places around the world. So this has been a fun project, traveling around the world. As you know, Teresa, we love to travel, and this has been a real blessing to do these episodes from South America that are coming out now.
We just produced a beautiful 8-part series on St. Francis. We're calling it The Unknown St. Francis, and it starts after Easter through EWTN Learn. And we did highlight, of course, Laverna. We called it The Unknown St. Francis because we went to some of the places with which many people are not familiar, because there's a whole side of him, as you well know in your research, a lot of people don't know. They see him sometimes, unfortunately, as we do many saints. He said, Archbishop Fulton Sheen isn't just a TV star. He is a truly holy, holy bishop and priest. And then you have St. Francis, who is so much more than this hippie environmentalist, where some people put him into a box that, so simple and really whittled down what he stood for. So I love learning more about the saints, don't you? I mean, it's just never ending.
I do too. And I think that, part of the saints is also the would-be saints, the might-be saints, like Fulton Sheen. So that's fun for me to see who's up and coming down the pipeline.
Let's talk more about Archbishop Fulton Sheen and other projects with our friend, the Miracle Hunter. His website, miraclehunter.com. We'll be right back. Having a wonderful conversation with fellow TV and radio host from EWTN, Michael O'Neill. His website for all the information on the Miracle Hunter program and the other wonderful projects in which he's involved, miraclehunter.com, miraclehunter.com. So how far are they in the preparation for the actual beatification event coming up in September, Michael? Do you know?
Well, I just did an interview on my show this past week. It'll air on Saturday. And we get into that a little bit, and they're very far along. And I think that in some ways, having this 7-year delay gave everybody a time to take a pause and take a breath and really get everything all lined up. So I think that finding the location in St. Louis there was the big one, and the date. Mm-hmm. And now that it's something like planning a wedding, I suppose. There's so many details, and getting the date and the location is perhaps the most important thing to get out of the way. And now everything else needs to line up, but I'm quite sure there's going to be some adjusting and building up for that event. And of course, it's a huge marketing effort as well. So, but I think but in Peoria, I think they've been quite ready for this.
Well, it's just so powerful, something like this. And isn't it interesting that this is happening in this year? Of course, Saturday is Holy Saturday, and of course, at the Vigil Mass, so many people will be coming either back into communion or into the church. And we have record numbers of Catholics coming in. And I just think it's a very exciting time right now in the faith,
I love the
despite
fact
all
that
the
this is happening
craziness.
during the 250th anniversary of our nation,
yeah.
with a Pope from Illinois, getting a fellow Illinoisan to become blessed. So I think that it's kind of a fun time for the Catholic Church to revel in this.
Is there a way people can find out about how to? I mean, I know it'll be free, but to make sure that they can go to the event in September.
Yeah, exactly. So I asked that same question in my interview this week because I think so many people want to go. There's this great website called CelebrateSheen.com, and on there is all the information for getting tickets and all the arrangements that can be made. People can go to CelebrateSheen.com for to find their way to St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. Oh, wow, it's just beautiful here. Then they also have a way you can sign up for the latest news about Archbishop Fulton Sheen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's worth doing for anybody wanting to go to the Beatification, just knowing what's going to be happening. There's going to be a number of different events that happen before the Beatification, perhaps just like a Super Bowl or other big bowl game. You have all the smaller events in the days leading up to it, so they'll be announcing all that on the website as well.
What's really cool is they have all these different questions: how to get tickets, why St. Louis, and even how can I obtain a relic? And the response is the foundation is currently receiving a large number of requests for second-class relics, which we are working to accommodate. First-class relics will only be made available to Catholic ecclesiastical institutions, parishes, religious orders, seminaries, etc., after the beatification takes place. Once they are available, detailed instructions about the required documentation will be posted on the foundation website. This is a great time just in general to talk about saints, because this is, if you just do a search, and I know you know this, do a search for the beatification of Fulton Sheen, not only the Catholic sources come up, such as the Register and EWTN News and our website, but it's all over the news. When the story broke, it received a lot of attention.
Well, this is a big deal on American soil, one of these events, and this has only happened a few times in the history of the Catholic Church where we see a beatification on American soil, and it's been some years now, so I think that people are excited about it, and a lot of people will be going.
Yeah, and also on the website, as you mentioned, CelebrateSheen.com, there is a statement regarding the cause of Fulton Sheen, and there's a video statement, and there's also a written statement, so if people want more background, they can find out about it. So do you think there'll be only Catholics there? I'm thinking there'll be a lot of other people, Michael, besides Catholics.
I'm not sure. We'll see. I think that Sheen had such a great impact in media and otherwise, and I think that there's going to be a lot of interest, media coverage especially, but perhaps some local people as well will be swinging by to see what it's all about.
In terms of an opportunity for us to evangelize and to teach about the sainthood, isn't this a good opportunity to witness about why we have saints in the church in the process?
I think so, and I think that, as I mentioned, the 250th anniversary, but I think that of America, but I think that Catholics and Americans in general, when we have one of our own, somebody who lived amongst us and walked amongst us on our soil, someone being acknowledged in this very big way, in this universal way, I think everybody gets excited about it. So it is a perfect opportunity to, reconnect with Catholics and reinform them about the sainthood process and the importance of saints. But I also think it's a time for catechesis, where we have all these interested people out there who want to know how did this happen and who is this person. I think this is a great chance to tell people about the saints.
And in your program, what else can we look forward to in talking about this? Your program is airing on Saturday, correct?
Yeah, on Saturday is 6 p.m. Central Time is the program this week on Fulton Sheen, and I also in that program we talk about his life and the event coming up and the miracle. So it's quite an in-depth interview. And also in the same episode, I interview a priest from Poland related to the Giertzwald apparitions that have their 150th anniversary this year, and they just declared Barbara Sumolowska to be a venerable on the path to sainthood. And of course, that's akin to Bernadette Soubirous Lourdes or St. Juan
Right.
Diego or the Fatima children. So this is a big deal. So I had a priest from the shrine there in Geertswald. His English was excellent, so that was great. But he told us all about this little known but one of the most highly approved Marian apparitions in the world. So a very fun episode this week talking about saints in our Catholic Church.
In terms of your travels, how do you decide where you're going to go next?
Well, strangely, I'm motivated by filming. So I often smuggle my film crew on to one of these pilgrimage trips. I try to fill up the bus and save, just a couple spots for my film crew. So I always try to look at where I haven't filmed that yet. And of course, from a personal checklist point of view, I do love going back to Italy anytime I can, but as far as other countries around the world, I'd like to go to places I haven't been yet. So perhaps in the future we'll do a pilgrimage to Asia or somewhere else. Going to Spain would be another pilgrimage that we haven't done yet. So I'm always taking input from listeners and viewers who write in about places they'd like to go, but looking to add to our growing list of Explore episodes of places we've filmed around the world.
But you've been to Spain, though, no doubt, right?
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
I just haven't taken the big group all the way around Spain. I think that we maybe stopped over there in one of those combined pilgrimages where we did Italy, Spain, and France. But
yeah.
I'd love to be in Spain. I love Spain, and it would be great to be there for the full 10 days or whatever. So
right, Spain is amazing, and we went to with Steve Ray and I did a pilgrimage there. We did, of course, St. Teresa of Avila and her convents, and went to Avila, and then also we went to Zaragoza for Our Lady
I've
of
been there.
Pilar.
That's one of the most beautiful shrines in the world, in my opinion.
Yeah. There's so much depth and beauty. And my hope in this, again, with all these people coming into the church, with Archbishop Fulton Sheen, with the new Pope, we have an American Pope, as you said, and we have this amazing Archbishop who's being recognized for his holiness, that people will continue to say, what is it about this Catholic faith? Right?
Yeah, and I think that saints are one of those things that I don't want to say Protestants are jealous of us, but they're curious about the saints. And I think that with all the excitement and the beatifications and the canonizations and the celebration, I think there's something to look at, especially for people of different faiths, just saying, what is it about saints that get the Catholics so excited? So I think this is a beautiful opportunity to talk about Fulton Sheen and otherwise.
So what else should people know? Would you like them to know about Fulton Sheen before your program this weekend, and also as we go toward the beatification in September?
Well, I think that one of the very interesting things, of course, is that he's from Peoria, Illinois, in my home state of Illinois, and he eventually went on to become an auxiliary bishop of New York in 1951. And during that same time, he launched his television series, Life is Worth Living, which is kind of an amazing thing to be named bishop and then to do a television series. And then he won the Emmy Award for that. I think he beat out I Loved Lucy at the time, which is kind of amazing to me. And just his how popular his show was, his preaching and writing style in his later years. I think many people still remember that. And he had a great focus on like the holy hour of prayer daily. And I think his influence amongst Catholic lay people and clergy is noteworthy. So I think that it wasn't just targeted at priests. It wasn't just targeted at the lay people. It was for everyone. And I think that everybody can get excited about him. And I think that this is a big moment for our Catholic Church when he gets beatified.
As presenters and speakers and authors, and you think about when now we do our presentations, we try to include PowerPoint and keep the attention of the audience. But you think about, not that that's a bad thing, because obviously you have to have a good message as well, but you think about how simple in his means of communication, in terms of, because he had such a commanding voice, he spoke with such great pronunciation, enunciation, clarity, and he had a wonderful speaking voice as well, but he was such a presenter. And I don't mean that in a phony way. I mean, God gave him a gift of communication.
Absolutely. And I have some friends who kind of validate this point, but they would say that when they were younger, when these are older people perhaps, but they would be in a bar. And we were used to seeing sports games and other things popping up in a bar. But Fulton Sheen they'd play his episodes in a bar, and the whole bar would get quiet and listen to him. That seems unfathomable in these days that anything like that could happen. But you're right. His presence was immense. He was captivating for everyone.
My family, I think I've mentioned this to you before, is from the East Coast, and my mother and father were born in Jersey City, New Jersey, and their parents, of course, come straight from Italy. But my mother went to see him in New York for one of his programs, and she talked about his eyes. how his eyes were just so piercing, and that she was just captivated by the message.
Yeah, truly an amazing man, and a great priest and a great bishop, and it's about time. I know we're sort of spoiled, right, with John Paul II and Mother Teresa, these Santo Subito, the sainthood immediately, these pushes for saints to be made instantaneously, and so this 7-year wait in between this pause has made us all wonder what's going on. But of course, in the history of the Catholic Church, we see decades and centuries between these steps along the path to sainthood.
So for our listeners who may not be all that familiar with the next step, after beatification would good canonization, and that has to be another miracle in order for that to happen.
This is a really interesting point, which is that you can't, a cause can't bank two miracles and play both cards at once, so to speak. So even if you were someone like Solanus Casey, who had this huge collection of miracles, or even if Fulton Sheen had multiple miracles under his belt, they couldn't just turn around tomorrow, the day after the beatification, and say, "Here's a miracle. Let's make him a saint." The miracle has to occur after the declaration of that he's to be blessed, and so. I've been joking for a long time that in 2019, when they announced him to be blessed, if they had found another miracle in this interim of 7 years, they could have done played both cards at once and jumped him to saint. But nobody wanted to listen to me for that bending of the rules. But
they didn't ask you for your advice?
No, nobody asked me. I can only give them a book to read. But
if they would just talk to us, Michael, it'd be so much easier.
Much easier. Yeah, and now that we have an American Pope, I feel like their line of communication should be wide open. But anyway, so we see that after the beatification, then the search for the second miracle is on. And so that second intercessory miracle, it must be a instantaneous, complete, and lasting cure, not liable to go on its own, and it must be through the singular intercession of that would-be saint. So if you pray to many saints, that's great if you get a miracle, but the only ones they consider is where Rome can say, yep, that was Fulton Sheen working that miracle and no one else. So it's a long process to find a miracle, and so they'll be looking for a second one. And when they do, they'll turn that around. Maybe there'll be another pause, we don't know, but theoretically they find another miracle and then they can canonize him right away.
Well, the good news about your program on Saturday, most of the Easter Vigil Masses don't start until like 8:30, until the sun sets, so people have plenty of time to watch your program on Saturday. So appreciate it, Michael. God bless you. Happy Easter, and look forward to having you on again. Safe travels at miraclehunter.com. Our friend and fellow EWTN host, Michael O'Neill from the Miracle Hunter. We'll be right back. Once again, we have the day off tomorrow because of Good Friday, and we are wishing you a beautiful Triduum and a blessed Easter. We will be back with you live, God willing, on Monday morning, Easter Monday, and our guest will be, of course, Matt Swain from the Sunrise Morning Show, also from the Journey Home. Every Monday, he joins us for the Journey Home highlights, and also Gail Buckley Behringer from Catholic Scripture Study International will be with us on Easter Monday as well to dive into Scripture, which is something we should do not only during Lent, but every single day to be in the Word of God. Remember, Bible stands for Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth. I heard that in a Bible study a long time ago. And also, don't forget Michael's program this weekend. You can check it out. He has links and how to watch and all that good stuff, miraclehunter.com. And please, please, please stay close to us this weekend, because we are going to be carrying all these incredible events that are going on in Rome with the Holy Father. And you can watch them live if you want, because they will be fed live, but then we re-air them. So just go to EWTN.com, for example, the Chrism Mass, which took place already in Rome. And then, of course, there is the Holy Thursday Mass, which is taking place at St. John Lateran, which is the Bishop's Church of Rome. And then all the beautiful Good Friday services, including tomorrow night, and the Holy Father. This has never been done before. Now, John Paul II and Francis, as Joan Lewis said yesterday, have both carried the cross for one station, either the beginning or the end, but Pope Leo is going to be carrying the stations of the cross, the cross through all the stations at the Colosseum. Of course, the Easter Vigil on Saturday, the Sunday morning Mass from St. Peter's, and his message to the city of the world. We'll have it for you, EWTN.com. Buona Pasqua. Happy Easter.